The Ohio State Buckeyes are about to see the toughest test of the season as their quarterback is skyrocketing up quarterback rankings, and we got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Columbus Football 365. If you're an Ohio State football fan, hit that subscribe button. Let's jump into what we got for today. If you don't know, now you know. Tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, the Ohio State Buckeyes will be traveling to the number 17th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini to take on one of the toughest challenges that they will see all year, and rankings-wise, the toughest challenge that they have seen to date. Yes, week 1, Texas was ranked number 1 in the country. Take a look at the AP, the Associated Press voting polls right now. Texas is not even ranked. Also, this time it's going to be on the road for Ohio State, not at the Horseshoe, making this more difficult of a test than Texas was. If we break down where the betting line is, the number is really big, more higher than you may expect out of the 17th ranked team. Ohio State is a 14.5 point favorite, coming in as a money line of almost a prohibitive favorite, meaning you can't even bet on the minus 750 odds that that sports books are giving you. If you don't speak gambling, that means you have to bet $750 on Ohio State if you are going to win $100 back on a bet. So not really getting your money's worth if you're going to bet Ohio State's money line. Over under set at about 50. Right now, the Ohio State offense is going crazy up and down the football field against their two last opponents in Minnesota and Washington, at least in the second half. So you have to imagine points are going to be scoring for at least Ohio State, but the defense is going to be, a problem for Illinois for reaching high marks for the other team, putting up some points. One name that if you're not familiar with, you're going to be familiar with the name Luke Altmaier for the Illinois Fighting Illini. He's, of course, their starting quarterback, fantastic quarterback in the Big Ten, highly experienced player, someone who will be giving Ohio State, or he gives most normal defenses trouble. The thing is, tomorrow he will not be facing a normal defense. The Ohio State Buckeyes defense ranked number 3 in the country in all-purpose yards and first in the country in points allowed, only giving up 5 points per game, which is absolutely insane. I mean, that is, I still think it's an unsustainable number for the Buckeyes long term, but for right now, I love the fact that they're not even giving up a touchdown per game. That's awesome to see as far as the Ohio State Buckeyes. But someone from ESPN, Pamela Maldonado, actually spoke in on this matchup, saying Illinois is a very solid football team. That part is not up for debate. They're disciplined, talented, and deep enough to dominate 80% of their schedule. They handle business against the teams that they're supposed to beat, protect the football, and they're well coached. But when the competition gets tougher and the margin for error shrinks, you see the ceiling, similar to what you see with Penn State. Now, if you pay attention to that, that little Penn State jab at the end, if you pay attention to Penn State football, usually they beat all the teams they're supposed to beat, but when the lights are brightest, when they're playing elite teams, Penn State doesn't step up and win those games, and that's what Illinois will be facing this weekend in the Ohio State Buckeyes. This beginning of the season has been a learning process, figuring out which teams are really, really good and which teams aren't so good, and it so far has felt like the numbers of the rankings haven't mattered and any team in the top 25 can beat anyone else. But now, to me, it really does feel that the top 3 is solidifying themselves as a different quality of team than the rest of the top 25. Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon, those 3 teams are a lot better than even the 4th team, Ole Miss, even if Ole Miss is undefeated in the SEC, very impressive, but those top 3 teams have absolutely everything. They really don't have weaknesses on their teams, and they're very talented programs. Now, going into the passing attack that we can expect to see out of Illinois, on their depth chart, Hank Beatty is listed as a wide receiver 2, which doesn't really make sense because he has almost 200 more receiving yards than anyone else on that offense. But Beatty was the receiver that I was talking about in my last video. Hank Beatty is the name that Ohio State has to put their number 1 corner, Davidson Igmanosin. Got to put him on Hank Beatty, make sure he does not get going. He's a player who's going to not only line up all over formations wide receiver wise, but he can also line up in the backfield and take some jet sweeps. They like getting this guy involved any way that they can. College football, it's not the NFL. There's the talent gaps are much larger. So when a team has a very good wide receiver like Hank Beatty, they look for ways to get the football in that guy's hands. So Ohio State needs to be prepared for that challenge. And so far, from what we've seen from this Ohio State defense, the level of preparation has been absolutely off the charts. We have new defensive coordinator Matt Patricia to thank for that. When you get defensive coordinators from the NFL, they're very good at making in-game adjustments, and we saw that last game with giving up a field goal on the first drive and then not giving up points for the rest of the game versus Minnesota. You know, Matt Patricia, whatever he faces immediately in the game, he's going to be able to adjust to that and then go forwards and make the right changes for this defense. Luke Altmaier, very good quarterback, but he should not give the Ohio State too much trouble. Hopefully we can keep this game, just get over early and figure out something. But also speaking about really good quarterbacks, Julian Sayin, every week CBS Sports goes out and ranks the top 50 quarterbacks in the country. Last week, Julian Sayin slotted in at quarterback 15, but this week he's much higher on their list, finishing at quarterback 2 in the country. CBS Sports wrote, Ohio State's 42-3 beatdown of Minnesota marked the best performance of Sayin's young career. He carved up a Big Ten defense to the tune of 12.1 yards per attempt, while upping his nation-best completion percentage to 80.2%. And it's not all dink and dunk either. Sayin has been money on deep balls. So, when Ohio State is rolling out Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, both guys who look like they're going to be first-round picks when their draft comes. It's 2 years away for Jeremiah. This is going to be next year for Carnell Tate. It is easier to play quarterback, but a 80.2% completion percentage is absolutely insane. That's exactly what you're looking for out of your quarterback. That means he is playing within the offense. He is being careful with the football, not turning the ball over, just overall playing quarterback at a very high level. And Julian Sayin, earlier in the year, was the thing about Ohio State's offense that you thought could bring them down if it was going to be anything. But Julian Sayin is developing so fast, and I'm actually so impressed with what I'm seeing from Julian Sayin. I know he was a very, very, very highly rated recruit, but I'm still impressed because I know that in the Big Ten, it's so hard to play quarterback at a very high level. So I was willing to give him a ton of time as he learned under Brian Hartline's offense and give him a chance to get his feet under him. Not going to expect too much too early, but he has really outperformed my expectations in the last couple of games. And I have so much confidence going forward with Julian Sayin. And if he's playing this well, I really don't see how a team beats Ohio State right now, because you have the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith as his wide receiver 1. Pair that with the number 1 defense in scoring points wise with the Ohio State defense. I really don't see how that mathematical equation adds up to a team that is at all beatable. This is a team that Minnesota last week, their head coach, he came into the game saying, we have to turn this team over 3 times and then we'll have a chance to stay in the game. And I'm thinking, that's a huge ask. And you're just going to stay in the game if you can turn over your opponent 3 times. It really has to be better than that. But that speaks to just how dominant this Ohio State football team has been this season. And other coaches are taking note of it, and other coaches are being afraid of it. This Ohio State team is absolutely nothing to be messed with. That number 1 overall ranking in the polls is absolutely deserved. There's no question in my mind who deserves to be the number 1 team in the country. It has to be the Ohio State Buckeyes. Elite defense and the offense. It's scary how good this team could be with the good offense, and that's looking like exactly where this team's going to be. Big time matchup against Illinois tomorrow. Got Penn State at home also in 2 weeks. Very excited to see, or not in 2 weeks, but in a couple weeks. Very excited to see how this season turns out for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Would not be surprised at all to see us back in the national championship game. Hopefully raising another trophy. If you stuck around this long in the video, please hit the like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Buckeyes.